There are people who are driven, and then there are people who are possessed. Ronaldo belongs to the second category, the kind of mind that moves not because it wants to move, but because staying still feels like dying. You don't get to his level through talent alone. Talent is a soft bed, and he has always been allergic to comfort. If anything, talent betrayed him early by giving people something neat to blame his success on. But underneath the surface, his psychology is powered by something far more jagged, the restlessness of someone who refuses to be ordinary, even when ordinary would have been enough for anyone else. To understand his psychology, you must understand the first truth. He operates from an internal world where the bar keeps rising every time he touches it. Nothing is ever enough. Not the trophies, not the goals, not the records, not even the admiration. Because all those things are external, and external validation is too easily influenced by the noise of the world. For Ronaldo, the real competition is not the defenders chasing him, nor the critics doubting him, nor even the generational rivals whose names are paired with his in the eternal debate. The real opponent is the mirror, not the reflection itself, but the gap between what he currently is and what he believes he should be. That is the psychology of someone who hates limits more than he hates failure. Because failure, to him, is a moment. A limit is a prison. Ronaldo's relationship with ambition is not the friendly partnership most people imagine. It is far more aggressive, far more demanding, far more unforgiving. It is the kind of ambition that keeps a man awake at night, not because he is stressed, but because he sees a version of himself in his mind, sharper, faster, stronger, and he can't sleep knowing that version is still out there waiting to be chased. It is an obsession, yes, but it's obsession built on discipline, and discipline built on pain, and pain built on a childhood that taught him that in this world you earn the right to breathe. People often look at him now and see glamour, wealth, success, status, perfection, but those things were not the fuel, they were the consequences. The psychology behind Ronaldo was carved long before the world saw him, sculpted in places where dreams don't survive unless they are made of metal. He didn't grow up with abundance. He grew up with a kind of scarcity that plants a seed of fear deep in the psyche. Fear of losing everything, fear of going back, fear of not being enough. But instead of breaking him, it hardened him into someone who uses that fear as fire. This is the second truth of Ronaldo's psychology. Nothing motivates like hunger, and nothing terrifies him more than hunger returning. That is why comfort feels dangerous to him. Comfort is the enemy of the boy who built himself on urgency. Comfort whispers, "You have done enough," but his mind responds, "Enough is the language of average." To him, every achievement is appreciated but never celebrated for too long. Celebration is a pause. A pause is a vulnerability. And vulnerability is something his early life taught him never to indulge in. Many people think Ronaldo is fueled by ego, and yes, ego plays a role, but not in the shallow way critics imagine. His ego is not just vanity, it is a shield, a psychological mechanism designed to protect a fragile truth deep inside. The fear that if he ever stops believing he is the best, the world will swallow him whole. To survive that fear, he doesn't just believe in himself. He manufactures belief daily, like a ritual. The confidence people think comes naturally is actually engineered, built, reinforced, maintained. A mindset like his does not simply exist. It must be fed, sharpened, cared for, battled with. That is why he trains like someone whose career is on the line, even when he has more achievements than most players could dream of. In his mind, success expires quickly, and the world forgets quickly, and he refuses to ever be forgotten. That is the third truth of his psychology. Immortality is his real ambition, not the biological one, the psychological one. The one where a man refuses to be a moment in history, he demands to be a chapter. He demands his name become something that outlives him, something that echoes, something that refuses to fade. Some people chase greatness. Ronaldo chases permanence. But this pursuit comes with consequences. Psychological ones he doesn't always admit, but they shape him profoundly. The first is isolation, not loneliness, but isolation. The subtle emotional distance that forms when someone builds their identity around being exceptional. Because when you are exceptional, you cannot allow yourself to blend in. You can share moments with people, but not the mindset. You can stand beside teammates, but not with them. You can love them, trust them, laugh with them, but the fire inside you stays yours alone. People admire him, but few can understand him. He is both idolized and misunderstood, both praised and resented, both followed and feared. That duality shapes his psychology. It teaches him that being loved for greatness is not the same as being loved for who you are. So he chooses the one he can control, greatness. This sense of being misunderstood is not self-pity. It is simply the cost of ambition that outgrows normalcy. When you stand too high, fewer people can climb up there to see the world from your perspective. So in a strange way, the higher Ronaldo climbed, the smaller his emotional circle became. This is the paradox of greatness. You rise above the world, but you also rise away from it. And yet, despite this emotional altitude, Ronaldo carries something inside him that most people overlook: vulnerability. It's subtle, hidden, guarded, but it's there. Not the vulnerability of weakness, but the vulnerability of someone who knows exactly how much he has to lose. That vulnerability is the shadow behind his intensity, the quiet fear behind his fierce discipline. Every time he scores, there's a part of him that says, "I must score again." Every time he wins, there's a part of him that whispers, "What if this is the last time?" Every time he silences critics, there's a part of him that wonders, "What if they were right all along?" These thoughts do not break him. They push him. They shape him. They tighten his jaw, harden his discipline, sharpen his hunger. They are the psychological weights he lifts daily. Heavier than any gym session, more demanding than any sprint. Another layer of his psychology is the profound emotional reliance on control. Control of his body, control of his image, control of his environment, control of his trajectory. To someone like Ronaldo, control is not preference, it is survival. His entire life taught him that if you do not take control early, life will control you brutally. That is why he micromanages his training, his diet, his sleep, his recovery. It's why he obsesses over details people find extreme. To him, details are not small, they are destiny. This is the fourth truth. Ronaldo does not hope for the future, he designs it. His relationship with pressure is also uniquely shaped. Normal players feel pressure as weight. Ronaldo feels pressure as oxygen. Pressure suffocates most people, but he breathes comfortably in environments where expectations feel impossible. High stakes excite him. They wake up a primal part of his psychology, the part that has been fighting since childhood, the part that has always responded to chaos by becoming sharper, not weaker. Pressure exposes character, and his character transforms under it. He enters a state of internal aggression, not against people, but against limitations. He becomes emotionally sharper, mentally locked in, physically demanding, spiritually aligned with the moment. Pressure is not his enemy. It is the stage where he performs his truth. The truth that greatness is not measured in comfort zones. But behind all this, there is another quieter truth. Ronaldo's psychology is built around proving something. To the world, yes, but mostly to himself. It's proving that the boy who came from nothing deserves everything he has now. Proving that he is not defined by his beginnings. Proving that he is more than statistics and numbers and headlines. Proving that he belongs in the rare air of legends. Proving that he cannot be broken. Proving that the sacrifices were worth it. Proving that destiny can be rewritten with enough willpower. Proving that greatness is not gifted, it is willed into existence. There is also the psychological phenomenon of narrative identity at play. Ronaldo sees his life as a story where he is both the protagonist and the author. He carries himself like someone aware that every action becomes part of his mythology. It is not arrogance, it is awareness. When a man knows he is building a legacy, every decision becomes intentional. Every moment becomes symbolic. Every setback becomes a plot twist instead of a defeat. This narrative identity gives him resilience. When he fails, he reframes it. When he is doubted, he turns it into motivation. When he is criticized, he uses it as fuel. His psychology does not interpret obstacles as threats. It interprets them as character development. This is why he bounces back in ways that seem superhuman. He doesn't see adversity as the end. He sees it as the beginning of the next chapter. But with this narrative mindset comes pressure, the pressure to always be the hero, the pressure to always rise, the pressure to always deliver. He cannot relax into mediocrity, because mediocrity feels like betrayal, not just to fans, but to his own story. This is the fifth truth. Ronaldo is not simply living a life, he is curating a legacy. And in this legacy-building mindset, he becomes almost mythological. People begin to idealize him, project their aspirations onto him, interpret his work ethic as inspiration, and his results as proof that humans can surpass human limits. Whether he likes it or not, he becomes a symbol of excellence, of ambition, of self-belief taken to the extreme. But even symbols have shadows. His shadow is the emotional difficulty of slowing down. When your identity is tied to constant achievement, rest feels like decay. Recovery feels like falling behind. Aging feels like betrayal. The human body slows, but the mind refuses to adjust. The competitive fire remains at full power even when biology starts whispering, You cannot keep this pace forever. This creates a psychological tension, a war between the relentless spirit and the realistic body. But Ronaldo handles this tension the way he handles everything else, by fighting, by pushing, by rewriting what aging means for an athlete. He refuses to accept decline gracefully. He chooses to challenge it violently, and in doing so, he stretches the limits of what an athlete's prime can be. There is also a deep emotional component in his need for loyalty, from teammates, from coaches, from the institutions he represents. Loyalty matters to him because disloyalty is a wound he has experienced. He carries it with him, not as bitterness, but as memory, and because of this, when he feels disrespected, he responds strongly, not because his ego is fragile, but because loyalty to him is sacred, not symbolic. Finally, there is the psychological layer of fatherhood. It softened certain parts of him, but sharpened others. It gave him a new kind of responsibility, not to the world, but to his children. And in that responsibility, he sees a chance to rewrite generational narratives. He wants his children to have the comfort he never had, but also the hunger he always had. Balancing those two is one of his greatest internal conflicts. And yet, even in fatherhood, the pattern remains. He wants to leave something behind that outlives him. This is Ronaldo's psychology. Ambition in its purest form. Discipline in its sharpest form. Fear in its controlled form. Legacy in its loudest form. Humanity in its hidden form. And it is only half the story.